my screen so that you people can just see the material of the manual that we can just go through together. So I want to thank you sincerely for being there. And I believe so far so good. You have been following the lecture step by step. And I also know that with time, you will catch up with whatever we have to cover. And like I said, I'm going to share the material with you. I will also share the material here for you to also follow as we go on this lecture. So I'm trying to share my screen, and I want to believe you can just see the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. So, but I will definitely share the material with you. But let's quickly go to where we are, what we are to touch this afternoon. I'm trying to quickly get to that point, and so that we'll not waste our time. Yes. Can you see me clearly here?
Yes, sir.
Can you see my screen clearly? That's great.
Yes.
So what we want to touch today, or where we are starting off today, is on the vulnerable and the marginalized groups. Remember, when we started the class, we talked about the vulnerable groups as well as the population at risk. And I told you thereafter that those population at risk, they are also vulnerable as well. But not all the vulnerables are at risk all the times. So you're looking at this, you see that the vulnerable groups are, these are the groups that require strong social welfare services. That is why they are called the vulnerable groups. You can see that we have the children and young people, we have the elderly, we have the physically challenged, the unemployed, the needy, and the vulnerable families as well, that is the needy families, then the sick and injured, victims of accidents, victims of war, as well as the victims of varying disasters. When we have this natural disaster, the victims, those that are affected, they are also vulnerable at that particular point in time. The victims of building collapse, the victims of fire incident, as well as all other disasters that we may think of. These are vulnerable groups, and you can also think about that. You can also imagine those that will fall into the category. Next, we'll talk about the children and young people. The children and young people. Looking at the children, you see, in our own society, a child is someone who is under 18. You know, in Nigeria, looking at the constitution, all laws in Nigeria context apply to adults 18 and above. So even when you are not 18, you know you cannot vote, and you can't be voted for in Nigeria according to Nigerian law. So a child in Nigeria is someone that is under 18. That is by law. But in some contexts, for example, some children that are under 16 years, they are given they are called children. Anybody under someone that is under 16, they are called children. It depends on the definition, depend on the state, depend on the context, depend on where the location is. You see, in some other climes, they define youth as somebody from 16. In some other climes, is from 18. Just like in Nigeria, between 18 and 35. In some other countries, between 18 and 40. In some other countries, between 18 and 30, and so on and so forth. So why are we considering the children and the young people as a vulnerable group? Because this group is also being affected by abuse. That is why we have the child abuse. you should know that the child abuse is defined as any act by parents or caregiver or anyone that puts a child or young person physical or emotional health or development in danger. When a child condition is put in danger, so such a child is being abused. This includes neglect as well. You see, but there are parents that even neglect their children. They roam about the streets, they do street hawking, they do street begging, and so on and so forth. This is a kind of child abuse. Children may also experience a range of emotional, psychological, and physical problems and trauma as a result of being abused or neglected. You see, psychological trauma may set in, physical problem may also set in, as well as emotional problem, apart from the social that relates with interaction. So what are the risk factors of child abuse? Parents has already abused a child. When you see a parent that has already abused a child, it's a risk factor. Any parent that you see, and such a parent has a history of child abuse, such a parent is likely to also engage in child abuse. When we have unwanted pregnancy, parents, when a child that is not welcome, when you didn't plan to have that child and the child just came as a result of unwanted pregnancy, the pregnancy you didn't even expect, definitely such a child may be abused. Parents that has a background of abuse when growing up, what you have experienced, parent that has actually experienced that may not see it as something that is a fight in the society. Then young, unsupported mother, often with low education. These people, this is also a factor, a risk factor to even engineer or engender child abuse. Parents that have unrealistic expectations of the child and lack parenting knowledge. You see, those child mothers, that is, you see those mothers that are not ripe to be mothers. When they give birth, the children from that birth, the children from such young ladies may not be taken care of properly. They may leave them to the hands of anybody. They may eventually become street boys, street girls, that nobody will be ready to take care of them, because even the mothers, they are still children. They are not mature enough to be mothers. So because they will have unrealistic expectations, those children will have unrealistic expectations, and they will lack parental knowledge. Parenting knowledge? How do they take care of the children? Then when parent is isolated and has few support, a mother or a woman that has about 5, 6, 7 children and she is alone, there is no support children in that family. Again, we look at what to do when a child or young person is in danger. When a child or young person is in danger, child protection and safeguarding means protecting children from abuse and identifying and stopping abuse that is already happening. Abuse is a deliberate act of ill treatment that can harm or is likely to harm a child or young person's safety, well-being, and development. Abuse can be physical, sexual, or emotional. Like I explained, when an act is perpetrated against a child that amount to ill treatment of that child and can harm him or her, or is likely to harm such a child, then a child abuse is established. Then you have the 5 principles of adult safeguarding. Adults and adults safeguard a child from being abused. How? How does that happen? Remember, we said child protection and safeguarding means protecting children from abuse. So these are 5 principles. We have prevention. This is a normal say that prevention is better than cure. Adults should look for a way of preventing that. That is, try to avoid those risk factors we have talked about. Prevent them from occurring. When such happens, you have done prevention, which is better than any other thing. It's better to prevent than to be looking for solution or to looking for cure for such abuse. Paramountcy. What are the greatest significance of safeguarding such a child? What are those things such child can do positively? What are those things that can be of significance to such a child? An adult will look at that and use it and redirect the attention of such child to that area. Then we talk about partnership. How best can an adult call for assistance or support of other colleagues or other adults so that they can join hands to ensure that a child is properly safeguarded or is prevented or is protected? One cannot do it alone. With whom can you enter into partnership to ensure that child abuse does not occur? For instance, you are a social worker, you can link up with law enforcement agency to prevent child abuse in your area, or to even arrest anybody that is involved, or to even ensure that a family is well protected from abusing any child that you suspect of likely to be abused or to be exposed to danger. Then we talk about protection. That is giving a kind of cover, security to such child from being exposed to abuse or abuses. Then parental responsibility and accountability. When a parent knows that this is my responsibility, the parents should know that you call the attention of the parents to the fact that they have responsibility upon their children. When they are brought to life, the father, the mother, the parent, both should know that they have responsibility. They have certain duties to do, to perform on their children. They are not children of the entire community. They are children. They are their children. They belong to them. They need to take care of them. The parents have duty of care on their children. They have duty of care on their children, and they must be accountable about or on their children as well. If you know that the child is at immediate risk of serious harm, you can refer such a child immediately to the police, social service for immediate action. We have social welfare department in Ministry of Women Affairs or Ministry of Social Welfare and so on and so forth. When you suspect an abuse is about to happen wherever you are, and you know as a social worker you cannot single-handedly handle that particular case, what you do is those that are people that are empowered by law to act, maybe to arrest or to act further or beyond your own power, then you can contact them when you know that such a child is at immediate risk. We have the police, we have the NAPTIP, National Agency National Agency for Prohibiting of Trafficking in Person, NAPTIP, Civil Defense, Nigerian Legion Commissioner may enter any premises and remove a child to a place of safety, SETA, for 72 hours. You know, as an individual, you cannot do that. You are a civilian. You are not empowered by law to do that, but you can just hand them over to those that are empowered by law, like the Nigerian police, most especially. You can hand over them to the agencies that have such capacity to handle such cases. Then we talk about the elderly. As we abuse children, people also abuse the elders. The older persons are generally defined according to a range of characteristics, including chronological age, change in social role, that is, the role you perform, changes in functional abilities. In high-resource countries, older age is generally defined in relation to retirement from paid employment and receipt of a pension at 60 or 65 years. For those of you that are working with government, I know you understand this better. When a person reaches the ages or when a person reaches age 60, or such a person has spent 35 years in service, such a person should retire voluntarily, will go on retirement. Either of the two, which of the two that comes first? So that is for paid employment. In other employment, it is defined as well. So because when you are of age 60, it is assumed that you are an adult. You have grown beyond, you have grown enough. You are an elder at that point. Of course, you are called the senior citizen. In the military, I think it's 70. I don't know. In the university, I think it's 65, 70, something like that. The teachers now, I think they have moved their own from 60 to 65, and from 35 service year to 40 service years. But then they talk about pension as a social security for them after retirement. I want to ask in this class, for those of us or those of you that are on government job, can you tell me the social security schemes that you people are enjoying or you are entitled to enjoy as an employee? Can anybody be my teacher in this regard? Yes, if you are working with federal government, or you are working with federal government, you are working in a federal government parastatals or ministry or agency or even state government. What are the social security schemes that you are entitled to, or the one you are enjoying? I want to know whether you actually capture the social security we earlier discussed before now, because a mention is made here of a pension. Can anybody tell me? Anyone? Just unmute and speak. If you can tell me the social security benefit or scheme that you are enjoying presently.
So the pension scheme, the NHIS, the NHF, that's the National Housing Fund.
Okay.
And then the NHIS, that's National Health Insurance Scheme.
Good of you.
And the pension scheme.
The pension, the contributed pension.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Yes. Thank you so much. So that is what I expected you to say. So those are social security schemes designed by government to take care of senior citizens or to take care of their employees after retirement. So even while you are still in service, you enjoy this. This is put in place for those that are on government job. So the same happens when we talk about the private sector as well. Those that are not on the that are not in public service, those that are in private practice, they also enjoy this in various companies, in various corporations and organizations as well. They put all this in place to ensure that life or living becomes very, very satisfying for their employees. So that is what the government also think about as part of their welfare, as part of their welfare packages, so that employees can also enjoy this. The same is done for the other citizens that are not employees. So thank you for that. Then if you read further, you can see that traditionally the family ensured a person throughout life. Young family member had to provide for the elderly. However, because of an increase in paid employment, young members of the family migrate to towns and cities. The result of this is that the number of people upon whom the elderly can depend has become smaller. Industrialization has attracted the young and not so young to urban areas, leaving the elderly relatively alone. You know, in the traditional society, in the family, the young ones are to maintain, to take care of the elders. That is traditionally. But nowadays, because of what we have today, young men, they do not stay, even they don't even stay in their family compound any longer. They don't stay in their villages again. They don't even stay in their state, talk less of being with their families. So we now engage the services of some caregivers to take care of our elderly. And this has its own consequences as well. It has its own attendant problems. So, but this is what originally, traditionally used to be, because the young one will take care of their elders. But today it's not happening. Even where where parents, they have grown up children or well-to-do children, what they do is they bring them they bring them to the cities. They employ the service of caregiver to take care of them, even where they are living in the same compound. They set aside their own apartments and engage the services of an outsider, in quote, of an outsider to take care of their own elderly parents. Increasingly, there is a need to address the issue of vulnerable older persons who live at risk in the community. Internal factors like cognitive impairment and external factors such as inadequate housing can threaten the health and safety of older adults. I think this is clear, because where they don't even have a shelter to live in, it becomes a problem. There are many adults, there are many elderly that are not even given proper care with respect to shelter. They are bound to live in relative houses or anywhere that is available, not their own. So in such a case, their life is put at risk. Furthermore, we have elderly abuse. Elder abuse is often committed by family members of the older person, notably by adult children, but also the older person's spouse or partner. So what this is saying is that majorly the family members, they do abuse their elders. And this could happen by the adult children, could even happen by the spouse or partner. It's happening. But you may be surprised, or I'm not too sure that you should be surprised that this happens. We have had several cases of a spouse even abusing her husband at old age. A spouse, a wife may determine, or a wife may just decide to punish the husband at old age, trying to pay him back what he used to do to her while he was young. we have seen cases like that, that it is now our turn to pay back what the husband, what the man did while he was young, or while he was able and was not as old as that. So she will not take care of him. She will be doing all sort of things to him that will not even make him happy. Emotionally, the man will not be stable. Again, she may even decide to abandon or to even neglect him and tell him he should just remain in the house, whereas she will go on Omogo or whatever, and she will not even look back to take care of the father or of the husband. The essence of elder abuse in the WHO definition is the harm or distress caused by a person in a position of trust. You see, the wife is put in a position of trust to take care of her partner. Family violence exhibits similar dynamics. It is defined in the Family Law Act 1975 as meaning violent, threatening, or other behavior by a person that coerces or controls a member of the person's family, or causes the family member to be fearful. That is explanatory. Who is most likely to abuse the elderly? That's the question. In most cases, elder abuse are perpetrated by known and trusted persons, particularly family members, including adult children, spouses, and others. You know, I said it earlier that those that abuse elders, mainly they are the family members. And here it is stated that they are known and trusted persons. They are people you have already entrusted with certain things that you not even think these people can go that extra mile to abuse such an elder. You will never think of it, except it happens and you witness it or you experience it. Imagine a hired caregiver giving wrong dose of drugs to your elder or to your elderly person that is supposed to be caring for. Imagine that. You see, because you have trusted such a caregiver with that responsibility, you want to leave everything to her to handle for the man. And alas, the caregiver will misbehave and you will not even notice. When you visit your elderly, you will not know that this is what he or she has done to such an innocent and unsuspecting man. Abuser can be men or women of any age, race, or socioeconomic status. Yes, it could be anybody. It could be men or women. It could be any race, which means it's not limited to a particular sex or a particular age group. They are just everywhere. Social welfare needs of older persons. What are the social welfare needs of older persons? Social welfare provisions are necessary for elderly in order to stop the growing elder abuse issue. Because what are the welfare needs of the older persons? One, the government, law, and legislation. They need that to regulate the behavior of anybody that will be engaged in the care. Law and legislation, mass media advocacy. There's need for mass media advocacy on the radio, on the television. School education, healthcare providers, those in the health institutions, family, and also elderly. They have the responsibility to give support to the rights of old persons. These categories I've mentioned, they have responsibility in care or in providing social welfare needs, or in making sure that the social welfare needs of the older persons are provided. So in this regard, you talk about their physical needs, emotional needs, financial needs, abandonment, and neglect. You need to talk about that. You need to also examine sexual abuse. The elderly are also sexually abused, and we have heard of women elderly women that have been abused severally. What are the signs and symptoms of elder abuse? How do you know? What are those manifest signs that you can see that will let you know, or that will point to the fact that this person, this elder, has been abused or is being abused? Some typical signs and symptoms of overall elder abuse include the following. One, when you see an elder that is malnourished, when it is not due directly to an illness, an elder that's supposed to have taken his or her balanced diet regularly, or that is expected to have been fed well, and such an adult is not, or such an elder is not well fed, so malnourishment will set in. When you see such and it's not due to an illness, you should know that that is a symptom, that is a sign of another abuse. Again, having poor hygiene. You visit such an elder and the whole environment is dirty, his clothes or our clothes, or even a room where the convenience is, you can see everywhere is not all that clean, and you can perceive poor hygiene. You can see that such an elder is being abused. Having untreated severe bed sores. When you see bed sores and it's not treated, such an elder has been neglected. Having an unexplained injury that hasn't been properly cared for. You see an injury in an elderly person and it's not explained and cannot be explained, and it's not being properly cared for. You see, that is an abuse. Having sunken cheeks or eyes with evidence of poor circulation. That can also suggest an abuse. Having the caregiver give the wrong type or the wrong amount of medication, like I said the other time, wrong dose. Frequently going to the emergency room of doctor when an elderly is frequently visiting the doctor, frequently visiting the clinics. Having a lack of basic necessities, including utilities, water, and food. These are basic things, and such an elder is in lack of this. That suggests an abuse. Frequently misplacing or losing personal items, that also suggests an abuse. Behavioral signs and symptoms of elder abuse. There are things you need to look for in the behavior of the elderly person that can indicate abuse. Behavioral signs of elder abuse include the following. One, depressive symptoms. When you observe the depressive symptoms from an elder is withdrawn. He or she doesn't even mix with people. He doesn't talk with people. He is in his own world. He's living in his own world or in our own world, and he doesn't even relate with people well. That also suggests that. Isolating or withdrawing from others. Like I said, when you isolate and you withdraw from others, it suggests that. Suffering from anxiety, anger, agitation, or fear. You see, such an elder is always anxious. The anger is always written in his or her face. He is always agitated for anything, and the fear overcomes him or her at all times. Being ambivalent, resigned, or unresponsive to comments, to remarks, to discussions, is unresponsive. Making up implausible stories about how an injury occurred. Being hesitant to talk freely. You want to talk, you want to discuss with you, and he's looking here and there. That is there nobody there? That please, I cannot just say it. I cannot talk now. Let's postpone it. It should be between me and you alone. Don't let me say it in the midst of the people. When such is happening, you should be wary. Being disoriented or confused. When you see an elderly being discontented and confused at all times. Then we talk about financial abuse warning signs as well. When looking for signs that financial exploitation is occurring to another, there are a number of things that may indicate this form of abuse. Signs of financial abuse of another include for you to know that an elderly is being financially abused, you should look for the following: a lack of amenities in the elderly patient's home that they can clearly afford. Basic amenities are not there for him or her to use. You can see that financially such an elder is being abused. Having the elderly person provide excessive gifts or monetary reimbursement in exchange for care or companionship, because you have a caregiver that is taking care of your elderly, and such a caregiver is still expecting Baba or the Mama to be compensating him or her after collecting his or her salary or his or her allowance. You can see that person is being financially abused. The caregiver has control over the elderly person's finances, but is unwilling or unable to provide for the needs of the elderly person, because you have put everything in trust. You put everything in the hands of the caregiver to take care of your father or to take care of your elderly person. And the caregiver has become the central bank governor of the house. So at his or her wishes, he gives out whatever he likes. He or she may not even care whether the required amenities or the required needs of the elderly are provided for. He or she doesn't care about that. He only dictates. No, you cannot take this one today. I have 500 naira for you today to spend. So you can't spend beyond 500 naira. You see, when you entrust your caregiver to that extent, you are giving him or her that power, unlimited power, to determine the finance of the house where your elderly is being kept. Do not sleep, and you should not sleep. And just remember that such a person can turn into another thing, and financial abuse can just set in. An inability on the part of the elderly person to understand what financial transaction mean. The elderly person will not even understand that, because everything will have been modeled up, maybe by the caregiver, by whoever is taking care of him or her. So inability to understand that, so that is an indication that financial abuse has come in. We'll again talk about physical or sexual abuse warning signs as well. Again, while physical and sexual abuse of an elder can be hard to detect, because he or she is an elder, she will not want you to notice all those things. At times, they hide all these things. They pretend as if all is well. The elderly, they will pretend as if all is well. They will not want to cause katakata, especially when an elderly person is brought to the home, maybe the home of the child and of the son, and the wife, they are living together, and the elderly person, maybe the parents of the couple, they are with them. They will not want to create katakata. They will not want to create chaos. They will not want to create crisis in such a family. There are a few warning signs that should not be ignored. These signs are often apparent based on an elderly person's changing appearance, moods, or overall physical condition. It is when you see them, they may not even tell you. If you are observant, that is when you can now get that this is what is happening. Signs of physical abuse of an elder include unexplained bone breaks, bumps, marks, stripes, bumps, and everywhere in his body, bruises, cuts, sores, burns on the elder. That is when you see that physically this man is going through this crisis. Then again, we have signs of sexual abuse of an elder. This includes an unexplained sexually transmitted disease. When you see an sexually transmitted disease in an elder, you begin to wonder what has actually happened. So a 70-year-old woman that has a sexually transmitted disease detected in her, you begin to wonder what happened. Then bruises on the thighs or external genitals, bleeding, pain or irritation of the genitals. I hope you also listen to news that we hear here and there that maybe a young person of 30 has gone to rape a woman of 60 or 65 in her home, and at times attempted to even kill the woman. We have heard so many stories like this. Then inappropriate relationship between perpetrator and the victim. The perpetrator and the victim, you can see that the relationship has become somehow because of what has happened between them. It could be between an elderly woman and a young person, between an elderly man and a young lady, and so on and so forth. Then engaging in unusual and or aggressive behavior. This is also a sign. Then what are the warning signs for neglect? When there is suspicion that an elder is being neglected by a caretaker or family member, there are various signs that loved ones should look out for. This includes lack of basic hygiene or clothing for the elderly person that is appropriate for the weather. You see, during the dry season, you see an elderly person wearing sweater, wearing cardigan. You consider that is inappropriate. Instead for him to be wearing light dresses that cannot absorb heat. Then during rainy season or during Harmattan, an elderly person is just wearing singlets, underwears, and boxers. You should know something is happening, a neglect is setting. Lack of adequate food for the elderly person. The feeding is not being properly taken care of. Missing media aids such as walkers, dentals, eyeglasses, medication, or hearing aids. When these are missing, you can see that such a person has been neglected. Being left in bed for an extended period of time without supervision or care. The elderly person slept yesterday at 9 p.m. and nobody bothers to even to go into his or her room to check whether the man has woken up or has not woken up till about 10 a.m. in the morning. Nobody cares. You see, that is a great neglect. The home or living area is clustered or dirty, with appliances that are broken or covered in dust. The living area is lacking the necessary amenities such as refrigerator, stove, plumbing, cooling, and heating or electricity. The elderly person may have severe pressure ulcers or bed sores. So these are signs that you see that such an elder has been neglected. Then emotional abuse, warning signs. In emotional abuse, there can be presence of uncharacteristic or unexplained behavior on the part of the elderly person and the abuser, because the behavior that is known to that elderly person is no more there. You are seeing unexplained behavior that is strange from such an elder. So you have the signs as follows. When the elder is withdrawn and fail to participate in usual activities. Again, the caregiver often isolates the elderly person and won't let them be alone with other family members. Let me take that again. when the caregiver often isolates the elderly person and won't let them be alone with other family members. You always want to be there, or she will always want to be there when the family members are around. She will not want the elderly person to, he or she will not give the elderly person that chance to narrate what is experiencing or what the kind of treatment the caregiver has given to him or her. In such a case, the caregiver will make it very, very difficult to isolate we make it a point of duty to isolate the elderly person. We will not want him to even relate with any family member, so that he will not be able to narrate what he has the treatment is been given. The caregiver can be verbally aggressive or demeaning to the elderly person. All kind of wrong words will be coming out from the caregiver to the elderly. And don't forget that as an elder deserves a better treatment, good approach, words of encouragement to ensure that his or life is also meaningful at that stage, so that he will not be suffering from any emotional shock at all. But you should be giving him or her emotional food that will make him live longer than expected. Again, the caregiver may be controlling, but not want to actually care for the elderly person. When the caregiver has assumed the position of a controller, that I'm in charge. So, Baba, you cannot tell me that I'm in charge. It is what I tell you that you should do. I'm in charge. It's trying to control. The elderly person will not like that. Emotionally, the elderly person will be affected and he will not be happy. And when such setting is a problem, is another problem trying to crop up, which we must actually avoid in dealing with our elderly. The risk factors for elder abuse. Again, elder abuse can happen to anyone or occur at any place, including the person's home, an assisted living facility, a nursing facility, or in hospital. It can affect elderly persons of all socioeconomic groups, races, and cultures. Surprisingly, most of the mistreatment of the elderly comes from family members in the patient's own home. You remember we talked about that earlier, that it happens by the family members mainly. Those are the greatest risk for elder abuse are homebound elders, women, individuals older than 80, and those who live in isolated conditions. These are the hardest hit. Typical risk factors that make an elder more susceptible to abuse are an isolated or withdrawn elderly person. When an elderly person is isolated, is alone, always alone. When you leave him to his own peril. The elderly person is in poor health when the health has deteriorated and the health is not improving. So in such a case, it's a very good factor to just a risk factor to abuse the elder, because you just abandon, you just neglect, because you will not want his or her health or taking care of him in such poor health condition to affect your own. The elderly person has a mental health issue, a substance abuse issue, or suffers from dementia. This is also a risk factor for elder abuse. The caretaker has substance abuse or mental health issue. When the caretaker too is also somebody, is also a client of the social worker. So what do we do? What comes out of that? You begin to you begin to have an issue with such a caregiver. Again, signs of abusive caregivers. How do you know that this caregiver can abuse your elder? These are the things you need to look for in caregiver who abuse the elderly. Having a history of mental illness. Before you can just appoint or engage a caregiver, you should understand his or her background very well. If he has a history of mental illness, you should just do away with such a caregiver. Substance abuse, family violence, or criminal behavior. We have seen somebody that has maybe he has been convicted of any criminal offense or is been involved in any any crimes. So you must be wary of such, or is also engaged in family violence in one way or the other, or as is somebody that takes substance beyond doctor's prescription. You should be wary when you want to engage such a caregiver. Failing to show affection toward the older person. You see somebody that has no affection at all for the elderly. You don't engage such. Keeping the elderly person from talking to visitors alone. When a caregiver is engaged and the elderly person has visitors, such a caregiver will excuse them to allow the elderly to be free, so that the elderly can relate or narrate the experiences or what he has actually experienced from the hand of such a caregiver. Being indifferent, angry, or aggressive toward the elderly person. What we are saying is a caregiver must be passionate and must not be aggressive. You must be gentle in nature. You must be gentle in nature. You must be patient, and you must be polite in his dealing or are dealing with the elderly, with the person he is supposed to take care of. Being flirtatious, coy, or inappropriate. When a caregiver is like that, it's a problem. Speaking about the elder as if they were a burden. When you look at the elder that you are the one giving me issue, I'm suffering because of you, I'm doing this because I have this burden, I have this wahala because I'm taking care of you. When a caregiver is saying that, you can see that he's looking at that engagement as a burden on him, withholding affection from the elderly person when the affection is not there. The person is not a small boy. The elderly person will know that whether you have affection or you don't have it, whether you love him or you don't love him, whether you care about him or you don't care about him, he surely knows. So it's not a small boy. So when you see that, when such an affection is being withheld, you should know that that is a sign for an abusive caregiver. Having conflicting explanations of physical incident, ask the caregiver to explain what has actually happened in an incident. It will be conflicting. He or she will be giving conflicting stories of what actually transpired. If you suspect abuse, you need to report it. You can talk about the other time, talking about the police, talking about the law enforcement agents. When you can report an abuse to them because they are empowered by law to take appropriate action. Another way to report suspected abuse is to connect with your
I can't hear you. Oh, yeah.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I think there was a network, there was a technical hitch from I don't know where it came from. It just went off. So we are at, you cannot see my screen again, Abby. Let me quickly. Hello? Hello, can you see my screen?
No, sir.
All right. We will share it. Very soon you will see it. Sorry. There was a shutdown, and I had to. Yes. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
All right. We are another way to report suspected abuse is to connect with your local adult protective services agency and or the police. That is, you can go to the social welfare ministry or agency or any parastatal that is saddled with that responsibility of taking care of the elderly. Most especially is always domiciled in the Ministry of Social Welfare. At times it's Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare or the Ministry of Youth or wherever. Whatever the name, then we have different agencies that are also given this responsibility to perform. I know in Lagos we have this what do they call it? I just forgot now. The Office of the Public Defender. I know we have it in Osun as well. Office of Public Defender. If you are denied your rights or whatever, you can also you can take your matter to them. You can go to the police. They have a I know they have a special unit for children abuse at the police command, as well as in the ministry. So when you go to the ministry, they will give appropriate direction or where to go, or you can you can get all this to you can get to know all this in your various states or wherever you are when you ask. I know the government agencies are empowered to take up all the related matters with respect to abuse. Then the physically challenged and handicap. You can also talk about the physically challenged and the handicap before we'll go to some other areas. Or you have questions on all we have discussed before now, before we proceed. Let me listen if you have questions, you have remarks, or you have contribution. Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. Hello.
We are with you too, sir.
So no comments.
Not yet, sir. From here.
Not yet. Okay, that's great. So quickly, I think we can also discuss on the physically challenged and the handicap. So since there's no comment, we'll go to that. Sorry, I'm trying to check some other further things to add to what we have discussed, but I couldn't get it quickly here. But I believe I can get that as soon as as soon as possible. Anyhow, so we'll go to this. The physically challenged, and the handicapped. The disabled and the handicapped have the same needs as others. You know, they are human beings as well. Just like we have our own needs. So definitely, they also have their own needs as well. They need friendship, just like we also need friendship, a satisfying job, an adequate income, recreation, and comfortable housing. Of all this, which one, those of us that are even able, which one will not be of benefit to us? There's none. Unfortunately, the prevailing social attitude toward them is unhealthy. This stems from the stigma attached to the family with a disabled or handicapped member. Some families do not have the love and patience needed for such a child. Some families, they do not have that. Again, originally, a disabled person was the sole responsibility of the family. Now, many governments recognize their rights and make efforts to provide formal and informal education services for them, provided by cooperative effort of voluntary organizations, agencies, and ministry. You know, today, there are states that have laws that protect the right of the disabled, disability law. Even at the national level, they have it. So that is why many governments are giving them attention these days. Even in distributing palliatives to people, in giving succor to the vulnerable, in giving succor to the needy, to those that are poor, to raise their level, their living standard. Government recognizes the disabled family as a vulnerable group. They treated them separately because they know they are vulnerable people. So non-governmental organizations too, they are also taking up their matters. That is where we have many NGOs on disabled, handling the challenge, handling those that are challenged one way or the other, either hearing impaired or eye impaired or physically challenged or mental disability and so on and so forth. The government is not also resting on that. They are taking care of them in a way. So again, sorry, just a minute. Again, we talk about the unemployed. The unemployed as well. The unemployed, some may say that unemployment is not a social worker's concern. Unemployment in Africa continues to be a problem. Among those affected are the rural migrant to urban areas, the rural unemployed, the underemployed, unskilled, young school leavers, the retrenched, and recently the educated unemployed. You say, well, how would somebody say unemployment is not a social worker concern? It's a concern because it has created so many social problems. What if you look at what is happening nowadays? Many graduates, the university are turning out graduates in thousands every year, but there are no jobs to absorb them, either by the government or by the private sectors. Where are those jobs? There are no jobs and they are creating social problems in the society. Some that could not be patient, that cannot have that patience again, they have joined bad groups. Some have even resorted into this Yahoo Yahoo of a thing. And many are into Yahoo Yahoo, the young school leavers. They are into Yahoo Yahoo just to engage themselves. Some are even joining banditry, some are even joining terrorist groups and so on and so forth because there are no jobs for them, especially the unskilled one. Even the skilled one, those that are in the Yahoo Yahoo business, are they not educated? Many of them are educated. So these are social problems. This actually creates a concern for all of us. to know. Young school leavers leave school without proper skills to do any kind of work. They need special attention as most of them leave school with high expectations that the government will provide them with jobs. Where is the government? Where is the job? How many jobs can government provide? The thousands that are being turned out from universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and some other higher institutions. Where will government get that job to give to all of them? But we pray that our country will become better so that all these social problems will be eradicated, because it's not going to be government alone. The private sector will be really involved, will be greatly involved, as well as other stakeholders, so that jobs can be available, just like we have in other climes. It's not the government that is giving every other person that has gone on Japa. It's not government that is providing them jobs. There are so many private sectors, private companies that are thriving well. But what we need in Nigeria is a conducive environment for private sector to survive, to thrive. When the private sectors can actually thrive well, definitely the burden on the government will reduce drastically. There is also the retrenched worker who needs crisis counseling. The consequence or the consequences one of the consequences of COVID-19 in 2020, is retrenchment from factories, from companies. The companies that could not meet up with its target, or the company that could not break through in its profit again, we have to reduce its workforce. And as a result of that, those that are retrenched, they are in crisis. They have social crisis as well as other crises apart from economy. This means that not only career counseling is required, but also social counseling. Often, a retrenched person is desperate when he loses his job. He does not know what to do. It is like death, and his family is affected by the loss. Some banks also laid off some staff after the COVID-19 in 2020. Many factories, even some parastatals, many people lost their job after that crisis. And this has its social implications as well. In many countries, career or vocational counseling for workers is done by the Ministry of Labor, while the Ministry of Education is responsible for the school-going population. However, the social worker remains in contact with all types of people in the community, whether they require career or vocational counseling, or whether they are the school-going population requiring help. The social workers are in contact with them. Social workers listen to their needs and concerns and work with other ministries to solve their problems. In some cases, social workers need to provide career information or information about where the client can register for a job. You may need to improve the client's job seeking skills. You have a client and you need to improve their job seeking skill as well. It is the work of the social worker. Social worker may also need to work with the family of the unemployed, as the burden of feeding, housing, and clothing their family members still rests with them, even though they are jobless. The family member where such retrenched person comes from, they have responsibility as well. And who will reawaken them to that responsibility? It is the work of the social worker. The family of the unemployed likewise needs counseling, and this may include advice on financial matters to help them embark on a small business enterprise. I wouldn't know. Let me check the number of slides that we have remaining. We talk about the social entrepreneurship. I think with this, we can we can stop here so that we have something to talk about next week. And I want to believe by next Sunday, by the grace of God, we should conclude this class. With this, the few slides that we have about 4 or 5 slides to go through. And I think we can just quickly finish them by next class. So I want to appreciate you for your attention. Or what do you, or you want us to rush everything and finish today? We still have about 40 minutes. You want us to conclude today so that we can go on with the revision?
So let's conclude next week.
We conclude next week. All right.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much. I don't know, Lami, you have to, perhaps you just hi me on my WhatsApp so that I can share this material with you to share further with your colleagues.
It's fine, sir. I'll do that.
All right. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Questions? Questions? Contribution?
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, mine is not question, but I just want to contribute. Maybe I might be right, though I've witnessed some. Like this elderly, sometimes you find out that most of them have this loss of memories. So sometimes when you see them with wounds, sometimes they on their own probably must have maybe gone the wrong way, and okay, there it can still be seen as maybe neglect from the caregiver, but sometimes they on their own can just maybe move around, maybe because they have amnesia and they can't remember some things, they can go to where they are not supposed to go, and sometimes you see them with those injuries. Most of the times it's not necessarily being inflicted on them from the caregivers like that. My observation,
yes.
though.
Yes, you are right. Yes, you are right. You are right. Like you said, personally, let me tell you, last week, one of our elderly women in the family, I just went to see them to say hi. You know, when I got there, I just noticed a wound in her leg. I said, Mama, what happened? He said, when I went outside, so I sat. So I wanted to get in and pick something. So that is when I just sleep and I fell. I said, why do you have to go to that place? On our own, no, on our own, and it's in the family house where the children are, the wives are in that family, a big family for that matter. You can see that one. That one, she just caused it herself because of her own negligence, because of her own not being careful in where she actually worked. So it happens. It happens. You are right. It happens, not necessarily by the caregivers, but there are some when they are put under the care of the caregivers, at times, not all the caregivers do abuse. You should understand that. Not all of them. It's like saying in the school nowadays, the student they cheat in the exam. You see, most times when you write exam, you still find some people that will still cheat in the exam. That does not mean that all the students in that class, they do cheat. You understand? But the fact that you can just find, the fact that you can just find a student that could do that, that will prepare you when you want to meet the group of such students next time. You want to prepare against what you experience perhaps maybe this year. Maybe when you invigilate an exam and you saw some students, the way they cheated, you now understand their way. So the next time you want to safeguard that does not happen in the way it has happened the other time. You get that kind of a thing. So that is why it is being said that it's a risk factor. It's a factor that is a sign that will suggest that perhaps this could happen. perhaps this may not even happen. We have had a situation where the mother-in-law, the mother-in-law, the mother-in-law is with the couple, the new couple, so to say, and the wife and the husband. And the mother-in-law was there. So whenever whenever the wife, that is the daughter of the woman, whenever she went out for maybe to her job or whatever, or she travels, she had the opportunity to travel, the mother-in-law will lure the husband to sleep with her. You can see that is funny. It's not the husband, it's not the man that will go to the mother-in-law, but it is the mother-in-law that will lure the man to sleep with her by force. You can imagine that. So we have had case where the son-in-law will also force the mother-in-law into the bed. We have had such cases. So these are like that, and they are all that, they are relative, and we experience. But as social worker, we should know that this happens. When they happen, you know how best to handle it, and the way you can handle them is for you to now investigate properly. You know the principle of a social worker. You know what are those things, what are the tools that you can use to ensure that you get the fact. Nobody will want to tell you the truth, but you soon know that this could happen in this kind of situation, this could happen in this kind of context. So thank you as much. I want to believe by now you must have you have understood that chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, talks mainly on social welfare. And at the same time, that all the provisions there, they are not justiciable in any way. That is, you can't go to court and just contest all the provisions there. That is why they are not justiciable. No provision, no section is justiciable in that chapter of the Constitution. Just a way of reminding you.
Okay.
Any other question?
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, in continuing to what Lami just spoke about, although this is my first time over attending the class due to some certain reasons. Okay. Concerning the cause, I have listened to what you have said concerning abuse of elderly, and I have found out that you narrowed your scope to just the elderly abuse to just only from family and caregivers. Does it mean that non-family members and what they call it, non-caregivers cannot abuse the elderly? For instance, if you go to most public areas, what they call it, banks and everything, and even the commercial sector, if you go to some of the banking hall, you find out that there is no provision for the elderly. So even seats and all of that, even to transport them, the buses we make now in Nigeria and some of these developing countries, they don't make provisions for the elderly. So I think I'm only seeing the reasons and factors from just the caregivers and the family members. Is it just only from that perspective we in social work, we tend to look at it from the abuse of elderly, or
all
holistically?
Right. I know, I understand you. No. We only say that mainly, when an elder reaches like age 80, 70, 80, mostly majority of them don't even go out. They are either confined to a home or a particular location. That is why we look at it generally. If you listen carefully, if you listen attentively, I said mainly, they are mainly abused by family members and the caregiver. Even the caregiver was not even part of it, mainly by family members. You see, when the statistics is taken, we get to know that most abuses are caused by mainly family members. It's not limited to that. But those ones you have just spoken about could also occur and could happen. No one is saying that one cannot also occur. This is what we also experience. The banking hall you have mentioned is part of it. It's part of it, even by the general public, even by those who don't even know. those that are not even related, that are not related to the elderly, they also abuse them. The neighbors, those people that are around, they also abuse the elderly as well. I agree with you.
But sir, this is precious.
All right.
Sir, what about those elderly people that equally abuse the people taking care of them? Because there are many of them. Like for instance, now the one I've witnessed, someone taking care of, let me just say, is her sick mom. At that, she's the one taking care of the mom, and at some point, the mother would defecate on her clothes, and countless times the lady have been like, if you want to defecate, tell me so that I will know how to handle it. That taking it from your clothes, your bed, and so many other things, they are really stressing me. And in other words, at some point, the mother may be like being quiet, but when she sees people coming in, she will start shouting that this girl have killed her, that this girl have killed her, that she doesn't allow her to do this, she doesn't allow her to do that she even beats her. Meanwhile, the girl doesn't beat her. But they will say that she will say that the lady is beating her, doing all manner of things to her. Is that not also an assault to the person taking care of the elderly one?
It is now, because the rights of the caregivers will also be protected, and it should be, he or she should also be respected as well. It is.
Yeah, because some people are saying, okay, sir, sorry. Some people are also saying that those things that they are acting towards their age, that is not normal. It's not because they hate you that they are doing like that. I was like, when you will be treating them fine, they will be happy. And when there is nobody there, they will be doing just as you said, like doing the things you ask them. And when they do something wrong, they will say, oh, I'm sorry, because nobody is there. But when they think so many people have involved themselves, they will be acting as if you are the one doing them bad. And someone was like, that this is their age, this is their age that is affecting them, that most of the things that they do, that they don't actually mean it the way we understand it.
Exactly. Yeah, I wanted to say that too, because when old age sets in, so many things will also go by it. You know, I think somebody mentioned dementia the other times. At times when they do things, when you ask them, they might have even forgotten. They will say they didn't do it. Oh, they will say they didn't do it. I have a personal experience. Sometimes, maybe last year, my old man was with me, with my family, and we told him that all of us, we had a function that we had to go that weekend, and he actually agreed. So by the time we left home, nobody was at home with him anyway, thinking that we'll not keep long and come back. So when we left home, a sister that did not tell us we'll be visiting, the sister just came home, and the sister didn't get access into the compound. And I was not called. Whereas the sister was calling the old man. And the old man wanted to see her daughter. So, and I was not at home. You know what the old man told me? While I was away, of course, he couldn't call me. He couldn't call me. But when I came back and I called him to ask about his welfare, whether he's doing well. When I called him, I said, "Okay, Baba, how are you?" Just to check on you. He said, "Please don't check on me. You deny me the opportunity to see my daughter." And he was angry. I said, "What are you telling me? The daughter, your daughter didn't tell me she will be visiting." So when I got home, that anger was still with him. He said, and he now bounced on my wife and said, you didn't allow me to see my daughter. You didn't allow me to see my daughter." So my wife didn't say anything. She just kept quiet because she knew old age has actually set in. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have thought in that direction at all. So at a point, my wife had to sit in and said, "Baba, let me explain to you. This person you are with, it's your son, isn't it? The man said, yes, it's my son. The other person, uncle, he said, yes, it's also my daughter. So what are you talking about? These people didn't tell us. So Baba, so she sat him down to explain to him in a gentlemanly, and he was happy because she took her time to explain to him. Otherwise, it will have turned into some other things. So what I'm saying in essence is that and ensure that you make them happy. Whatever they want, you handle them gently and politely. And many insults, you have to take it to many insults, you have to take it to ensure that, because I know what they do that is very fine today, tomorrow they may do the otherwise. That's just my contribution on that. Hello?
So
Hello?
we can hear you.
Okay, that's great. So, Princess, I think I wouldn't know if I've actually addressed your concern in that regard. Essentially, their behavior changes as they just think, as things comes to them, they just they behave in that direction. It is the caregiver. That is why it is important that whoever is to be engaged as caregiver must be properly tutored about gerontology, so that he or she knows what is required or what the needs of the elderly are. You don't just employ person and say, please go and be taking care of my father without proper tutoring. And you continue to monitor, and you continue to even counsel the person that you are going to engage as caregiver to take care of any elderly. Any other comment? It's all right. Any other comment? Yes.
Before we conclude, it's not everybody. I think it's not every family, considering the reality of the economy right now, can
Hello?
have their. I don't know if
Can you come again?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Good. I don't think it's every family that are financially buoyant to what they call it now, to engage
Hello?
a
There
caregiver.
is interference. There is interference somewhere. I wouldn't know where the
Can you hear me?
interference is. Not
Can you
clearly.
hear me now?
Not clearly. Okay, now. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you
Can you
now.
hear me now? Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
go
talking
ahead.
about in a case where not all family, in a situation where not all family can afford the services of a caregiver. Some people do take it as optional to take some of their elderly to the old people's home. And I remember was it last year or last 2 years, in our department, we visited the old people's home in Enugu here. I think I'm not familiar with this place. I think in Gariki area. Old people's little sisters of something like that, a home like that there around Gariki area and all of that. When we got to that, I realized that the old people's home in Nigeria is, in fact, the old people as a sector or as a unit or something like that should critically be looked into, because there's no care for them. Getting to the home, we found out that most people there, the gender is contributed there is of females than male, and again the homes they depend on arms seeking to be able to finance the home. They don't have any governmental finance to finance them. They don't have any proper. And again, if you look around, if you go around the old people's home there in Gariki, you could still find some elderly people still sitting there in front of the building seeking help. And the old people home, they told us that they have a kind of carrying capacity to a number. They can't carry more. I think that home is just the carrying capacity. The maximum carrying capacity bed there is 55 or so. They can't carry more than that. And again, they still need to seek help from private individuals and all of that, seeking arms and all of that, to source arms and all of that. My question is, do you advise, what do you call it now? Do you advise people to take their elderly to old people's home, considering that Africa, we have a tradition. We don't usually take our, what they call it now, our elderly to old people's. We are not familiar with that kind of system and all of that. We are used to keeping them and having them around us and all of that. Some people, I remember when we got back to school, and one of my colleagues told me that if they should take her to that old people's home, it won't take her less than 1 week. She'll be dead. She'll be dead without, because they are confined and their movement and everything is they are just confined. Yeah, they're restricted and all of that. I think it's a critical sector. This course is a critical sector because it's going to happen as long as you are not going to die. If you are still alive, probably God keeps you and probably your hygiene and everything, and you stay alive, you are going to go old and all of that. You need care. So I think it's a critical sector we need to look into. And I think the government and mostly in developing country like Nigeria still need to do so much to that sector.
Yes.
I think that's
thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, there's no straightforward answer to whether I will recommend or I will not recommend. But what I know is that what I understand is the fact that traditionally we have lost our values. You know, these days we copy what Oyinbo people will do, and when we copy, we do everything. We just borrow everything, hook, line, and sinker. Will not look at our local content and adapt appropriately. For those that are running old people's home, I want to believe before they could do that, it's like running a school. Before you could do that, even though the government is to provide a conducive environment, you know, the responsibility, the responsibility the government is to take is so fast, is so enormous. The responsibility on the government's neck is so enormous that no government can provide for everything we need in this country. It's not possible. Everything we need in this life is not possible for a government to provide that. Government can only be successful when there are support here and there, especially from the private sectors, especially from the individuals, especially from the philanthropists and other stakeholders as well. So to me, it's important that we go back to the basic, we go back to our roots and ensure that we do not lose our traditional values. If our traditional value is well placed, is well put in place, and is well recognized, we can conveniently take care of our elderly without any wahala. To me, this is personal anyway. To me, taking people to old people's home, you know, is alien to our culture. If you want to agree, people may not even agree. It's quite alien to our culture, and many of these babas and mamas, they are not used to that. And unfortunately, the facilities are not there to take care of them. Even the conventional facilities where we are to even take care of our health, the hospitals that are to take care of the children, to take care of the youth, to take care of the adults, not too old person. The hospital facilities, are they there? Are they there to even provide the health care for us? We don't have enough. We don't have a good health care system in this country to take care of those that are even able, talk less of those that are vulnerable. But it's important that the government come to their aid and government provide an enabling environment for such home to run properly. Look at the country in context, Nigeria in context. If you look at it in context, you will see that nothing in this country works well. Nothing in this country works. Even look at what is happening in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Look at what is happening in the National Assembly. Look at what is happening in the presidency. What works well in this country? I don't know. I cannot even say this one works well in this country. You cannot point to a particular sector in this country that you can say this works well. What is happening in the electricity sector? What is happening in the economic sector? What is happening in the educational sector? Go to schools, go to everywhere. You will see that you'll be alarmed to see many disappointments. How can you imagine how possible or how palatable it is to hear that the signature of the former president and that of the secretary to the federal government were forged by the central bank then. You can imagine what is happening. And those signatures, the circulars or the directives that with that signatures, they were all carried out without any recourse to anywhere. And these were forged to ensure that some people perpetrate evils. Anyway, this is not a class to debate what Nigeria government is doing or what it has done well or what it has not done well, but it's important that the government come to the aid of those homes, because all of us that we are talking now will one day become old and we will also be elderly. We pray that things will work well, but how will those things work well? It depends on you and me. How best do we discharge our responsibility where we are to ensure that things work well? May God bless every one of us. I want to thank you again, most sincerely, and we would like to pray that we see ourselves better and next Sunday by the grace of God, so that we can conclude the class. And if we have the time to do revision, we can do the revision and just go over the course just like that. And you'll be welcome into the Prestigious Institute as chartered member by the grace of God. Once again, I want to thank you, and we'll be getting to you the material through Lami, and I pray that we'll have a better cause to glorify Almighty God when next we meet. So until another time, when we have the opportunity, I say bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you, sir.